Purple blood dripped from Wren's mangled side as she limped into the grungy outpost bar, collapsing into a shadowed booth. The Ferengi scout's wounds may claim her life, if the betrayal of her abandonment by her own kind did not kill her soul first. "Wren! By the blessed exchequer, what happened?" Zor the bartender rushed to her side, his wrinkled lobes quivering with concern at her once pristine uniform, now shredded and stained violet. Wren coughed, each breath ragged and pained. "Klingon raiders attacked my scout ship, disabled engines and boarded, barely escaped in a pod. Then those petaks shot me as I fled." She gestured weakly to the blood-soaked rag tied around her abdomen. "I drifted for days, sent distress call after distress call on all Ferengi frequencies. No response. Not one ship came." Her voice cracked with despair and disbelief. "My own people abandoned me to die in the void, unprofitable, expendable." Zor shook his head, unable to process such callousness from the Alliance. A Ferengi left behind. Unthinkable. Wren shuddered as a spike of agony ripped through her body. Each breath brought her closer to the end. She had almost surrendered to the encroaching blackness of death. Until an unknown vessel locked onto her drifting escape pod. A strange, sleek design of unmatched power and alien origin. She had feared the worst, more raiders, slavers, or scavengers. But then a voice crackled over comms, speaking in an odd yet commanding tongue. The first human words ever heard by Ferengi ears. "Attention, damaged vessel. This is Captain Reese of Earthship Dauntless. We have received your distress signal and are moving to assist. Hold on, we're coming for you." As Wren recounted her experience with the human named Aaron, Zor's eyes widened, his lobes twitching with amazement. He leaned forward, hanging on her every word. "Wait, so this human just showed up out of nowhere, patched you up with some kind of magical medical tech, and then flew you to safety? Just like that?" Zor asked incredulously. Wren nodded, a faint smile crossing her pained features. "Yes, it was unbelievable. I kept waiting for the catch, for him to demand payment or favors, but he never did." She shifted in her seat again, her hand instinctively going to her bandaged side. "And the things he told me about Earth and humanity, I had no idea. I always assumed they were just another primitive, warlike species scrabbling for resources like the rest of us." Zor snorted. "Ha! Sounds like they're a lot tougher than anyone gives them credit for, if they're going toe-to-toe with the Klingons." "But that's just it," Wren said, her voice taking on a tone of wonder. "Aaron said they don't fight for conquest or glory. They fight to protect others, to defend the innocent from harm. Can you imagine?" The bartender shook his head in disbelief. The concept of altruism was almost entirely foreign to Ferengi culture, where profit and self-interest reigned supreme. "I know it sounds crazy," Wren continued, seeing his skepticism, "but I saw it firsthand. The compassion, the selflessness. He saved my life without a second thought and wanted nothing in return. It flies in the face of everything we're taught." Zor was quiet for a long moment, processing this revelation. If what Wren said was true, then perhaps there was more to these humans than met the eye. Perhaps they represented a new way of thinking, a path beyond the endless cycle of greed and conflict that had defined the galaxy for so long. "You've given me a lot to think about," he said at last, refilling her water glass. "I'd always dismissed humans as just another minor species, but now, I don't know. Maybe they're the key to something bigger." Wren takes a slow sip of the cool drink Zor placed in front of her. The eelwasser slid down her parched throat, its refreshing chill a balm to her weary body. Setting the glass down, she continues her tale. "After I recovered from my injuries, Aaron said he'd take me to the closest Ferengi trading post. But during our trip, the ship's comms lit up with an urgent distress call from a nearby system. Aaron traced it to a damaged freighter, engines offline and drifting helplessly. It had been hit by raiders." Zor's lobes twitched with surprise, and the human just dropped everything to help them, but he didn't even know who they were. Wren nods. "Exactly. When I asked Aaron why he was risking our safety for total strangers, he said it was his duty to assist those in need. No hesitation whatsoever. She shifts her weight, stretching her healing muscles. When we reached the freighter, it was in terrible shape. The pirates had stripped it of cargo and fuel, leaving the crew beaten and stranded. Aaron docked immediately and went aboard to tend the injured. He used his ship's replicator to make food and medicine for the survivors, gave them emergency power cells and parts to repair their engines. I watched him work tirelessly for hours. Wonder fills Wren's eyes as she recalls Aaron's selflessness. I couldn't comprehend it. He shared his own limited supplies without a thought for the cost. Every life is precious, he told me. It's a soldier's duty to protect and serve. Species and politics make no difference. Zor leans back, clearly impressed by the human's noble actions. That's a rare attitude these days. Most spacers would have hightailed it out of there, not wanting to risk their own hides for a derelict, especially with raiders skulking around. I know, Wren agrees solemnly. Before I met Aaron, I would have done the same, looked out for myself and my profits alone. But he showed me a higher path, taught me to value compassion and service over greed. The Ferengi female gazes into her drink, as if seeing her own reflection in a new light. He changed me, Zor. Gave me a moral compass I never knew I had. I don't want to be just another selfish Ferengi anymore. I want to make a real difference, like he did. Wren falls silent, her eyes distant and haunted as she recalls that fateful encounter. Zor watches her closely, seeing the pain etched in her features. He can only imagine the horror she must have felt, helpless in an escape pod, watching her savior sacrifice himself. What happened next? Zor asks gently, not wanting to press but sensing Wren needs to unburden herself. She takes a shaky breath, her hands trembling as she grips her drink. The Klingon ship, it was destroyed, completely obliterated, but so was Aaron's vessel. There was nothing left, just debris and silence. Tears slip down her cheeks as she relives that awful moment. I screamed his name over and over, begged for any sign of life. But there was only static. He was gone. He gave his life for me, and I couldn't even thank him. Wren's voice breaks, her shoulders shaking with quiet sobs. Zor moves to sit beside her, putting a comforting arm around her shoulders. I'm so sorry, Wren. I can't imagine how that must have felt to lose him like that. But you have to know his sacrifice wasn't for nothing. He saved you. He believed you were worth saving. Wren nods, wiping at her tears. I know. And that's why I can't let his death be in vain. Why I have to honor what he taught me, by being better than what I was. By helping others, putting their needs before my own profit, no matter the cost. She sits up straighter, a glimmer of determination in her eye even through the grief. I'll join the Ferengi Relief Corps, like I said. Use my skills to aid those the Alliance has forgotten. It's what Aaron would have wanted. It's the only way I can repay the debt I owe him. Zor nods slowly, a look of deep respect on his weathered face. He would be proud of you, Wren. Proud of the person you've become because of him. The sacrifices we make for others, especially those who are different from us. That's the mark of a true hero. Lifting his glass, Zor holds it aloft in a solemn toast. To Aaron Roberts, the human who showed us the best of his people and the best in ourselves, may his spirit find peace and may his legacy endure. Wren raises her own glass, clinking it against Zor's. To Aaron, she whispers, my savior and my friend. I will never forget him, and I will spend the rest of my days living up to his example, no matter what it takes. As the final notes of the toast fade, a sudden commotion outside the bar draws Wren and Zor's attention. Rushing to the window, they see a crowd gathering around the large view screen in the marketplace, urgent whispers rippling through the throng. On the screen, a grim-faced news anchor delivers a solemn report. Tragic news from the front lines of the Klingon Federation conflict. The USS Dauntless, a human warship, has been destroyed in battle, with all hands lost. The anchor pauses, his voice heavy with emotion. Among the casualties was Commander Aaron Roberts, a decorated soldier known for his bravery and compassion. Ren staggers back from the window, her face ashen, eyes wide with disbelief. No, it can't be. Not Aaron. Her voice is barely a whisper, her body trembling. Zor steadies her, his own expression somber, brows knitted in confusion. I thought you said he died in the ambush, when he rammed the Klingon ship. Ren shakes her head, realization dawning, a painful clarity settling over her features. That's what I thought, but he must have ejected me from the ship before the collision. He survived somehow and kept fighting. Her voice cracks, tears welling in her eyes. She turns to Zor, her gaze blazing with a maelstrom of anger and grief, hands clenched at her sides. And now he's gone. For real this time. Killed in another senseless battle, fighting for people who will never know his name or what he did for them. The words are bitter on her tongue, tinged with the acrid taste of loss. Zor nods slowly, his voice heavy with understanding, a deep sorrow etched into the lines of his face. Such is the fate of many heroes, Ren. They give their lives for others, without expectation of reward or recognition. It's a heavy burden, but one they bear willingly. Ren's fists clench tighter, knuckles pale, tears now streaming freely down her cheeks, cutting tracks through the dust and grime. I won't let his sacrifice be in vain, Zor. I'll join the Ferengi Relief Corps as I planned, but I'll also speak out against this war, against all wars. Her voice rises, filled with a fierce determination, eyes alight with purpose. I'll tell Aaron's story to anyone who will listen, so that his legacy lives on. She looks up at the view screen, where Aaron's image is now displayed alongside the other fallen soldiers, a silent tribute to their valor. Goodbye, Aaron, she whispers, her words a solemn vow, a promise sealed in the weight of her grief. Thank you for showing me the true meaning of courage and compassion. I will never forget you. Zor places a hand on Ren's shoulder, a gesture of solidarity, his own eyes glistening with unshed tears. None of us will, Ren. Aaron Roberts may be gone, but his spirit lives on in you, and in everyone he touched. The galaxy is a better place because of him, and because of you. Never forget that. Ren nods, wiping the tears from her face, a new strength settling over her, born of sorrow and resolve. She squares her shoulders and turns to face the future, determined to honor Aaron's memory and continue his work, no matter the cost. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.